Welcome back to the channel. This is the Action Figure Grader, and I've got some loose graded items that I picked up here recently that I wanted to show you guys. Some of them were submissions myself to CAS. Some of them were gifts from a good friend of mine named Dominic, and a couple of them I picked up on eBay, and two I picked up in a purchase from a good buddy of mine named Dustin. And one of the first one I wanted to show you is another example to add to my non-sonic welded and overstock collection. I don't have a lot of them, but I do have some nice ones. I've got mainly Lily Lettys that are either overstock or non-sonic welded, a lot of unpainted type items. I've got a Lily Letty Chewbacca that is graded 85 plus. This is a true unpainted overstock Lily Letty. And what does that mean? Well, when the Lily Letty factory was going out of business in the 1980s, they had a lot of boxes of parts and things like that. Some of them made it to the black market out there. Some of them were just kind of picked up and, have slowly trickled out into collectors' hands over the years, either unpainted and or non-sonic welded, and, in terms of final assembly. So this is an unpainted Chewbacca, Lily Letty, 85 plus. This is one I picked up on Facebook several years ago. This is an unpainted non-sonic welded Lily Letty C-3PO. So you can see it doesn't have the vac metallization. It's just true unpainted example overstock graded 85. This is another one that is unpainted, Lily Letty Paplu, and also non-sonic welded. CAS just does an amazing job with these cases. They've kind of changed over the years, where originally it would kind of look like this, where it was almost too splayed out. They had a bigger gap for the arms. And then I think after collectors said that it looked too big, they kind of moved over to this format, which is a little better, I think, where the gaps for the non-sonic welded pieces are lower or smaller, and you can kind of see the figures better. So that's the Paplu graded 80. And this is one that's actually painted. This is a painted Lily Letty AT-ST driver that is only a 60 grade, mainly because the back piece has got some bad yellowing to it. But this one is also a true non-sonic welded kind of overstock. A lot of the overstock made it to black markets, as I mentioned, and they were either kind of hybrids with, bootleg parts, things like that, unpainted or painted after the fact. But those are the Lily Lettys I got. I've got one more that I just picked up that I'll show you in a second. Before I do that, these are two standard Hong Kong figures that are non-sonic welded. So they've got a Stormtrooper graded 85, and then an AT driver, AT driver 85 as well. And that one I had encased with the weapon. Why, I have no idea, but that's what I did. So here's the new one I picked up from my friend Dustin B. This is a Lily Letty unpainted, non-sonic welded Chief Chirpa overstock. So just another example from the Lily Letty factory as it was going out of business, was never painted. I just think they're really cool figures, and thank you again, Dustin, for it. Unpainted, overstock, non-sonic welded Chief Chirpa Lily Letty, 80 plus. So yet another overstock to add to my collection. Very, very happy with that. And in a separate transaction from Dustin, so the same seller, but in a different transaction, I picked up a Yoda that he was offering. I think he was putting together some funds for something, so he was selling off a few gems, and I couldn't pass this one up. This is an Apple head, quote-unquote, transition Yoda. And so this is how it's labeled, Orange Snake Transitional Yoda, and it's graded 85 plus. And so I asked Dustin for some more information on this one, and he said that the Apple head Yoda only came with the orange snake on the 41 back D Empire Strikes Back card back. That's the only card back that this particular character accessory combination came with. Was on the 41 back D. So it's considered a transition because they were transitioning over to the brown snake. And so most of the Apple heads that you see out there, the Apple head meaning it's the bright green head relative to the standard green for the arms and legs. So you can see how bright that head is. But most of them come with the brown snake, except for the 41 back D, where they were transitioning over from the orange snake to the brown snake. So that's the explanation that he gave me. But very cool transitional orange snake Yoda, 85 plus. And another great job of labeling by AFA. I just think that they go above and beyond. When you have a really special piece like this, or the Chief Chirpa that I just showed you, I mean, you can't, if you send this to AFA, they're not going to put that kind of information on the label. And you can't even get AFA to label or to grade something like this. So, you know, I'm not saying that for everything you send it to CAS or everything you send it to AFA, but with certain items, the grading companies are better. You know, certain grading companies are better than others. UKG, I think, is more in line with CAS in that they can grade non-sonic welded, and they can be a little bit more flexible for you on the labels, on the grading labels. But AFA does not do that. You know, they just kind of do their thing. So thank you again to Dustin for those two beauties, really special items. And I got a couple of pickups from CAS. This one I already had in my collection. This is a third generation Polish bootleg Boba Fett graded 85. And I don't know why I bought this, but you know, this is another one that I picked up in the bootleg group, and it's pretty similar to this one. It's a little darker. It's very faint, but it's a little bit darker gray. And there's some other minor differences to it, but not really that much. I mean, it's a pretty similar figure, if you ask me. But again, another third generation Polish bootleg Boba Fett, and this one came back with an 80 plus. So I've got two of these for some stupid reason. One of them in an 85, one of them in an 80 plus, and just happy to add another Polish bootleg. I don't add a lot of bootlegs to my collection, but nowadays, but you know, just occasionally I'll on a whim I'll pick up one, and this is one I did pick up. I got one other at CAS right now that'll be back soon, and as part of that batch, I did pick up a couple of die casts. I'm going to try and knock all this out in one kind of go here without any cuts, because it's pouring rain right now and very loud with the thunder. I'm not sure if it's coming through or not, but this is a loose graded die cast, and this is the die cast land speeder, and it's got Luke and C-3PO there. I just love the die cast presentation from CAS. This one graded 80. And pretty awesome condition, and I got a really fair price on that land speeder that I picked up online. You know, the problem is it's not the cost of the loose graded die cast, it's finding one that's actually clean enough that's worthy of grading. Tough to do sometimes, and the grading cost on these is very expensive. But shout out to CAS, because, you know, the typical turnaround time on the die cast used to be like a year or a year and a half. They got this one and the next one I'm going to show you in a second. They got it done in 4 months. So the turnaround times for these semi-custom type items that take a long time has really come back down in terms of the turnaround times. 4 months is a very reasonable time frame for something like this. You know, these cases are second to none, and they really elevate a pretty simple item, right? You know, just a loose die cast, but it really elevates it to like a next level with these ramps and kind of how they show it. So I was very happy with that one. The next one is another die cast, and I didn't take it out of the poly bag because I'm thinking about selling it. I'm not sure yet, but this is the die cast X-Wing, and so this is another one, and just a great presentation on this one. 75 plus on this. So, again, I'm sorry about the poly bag on it, but I just didn't want to bother taking it out if I'm going to end up selling it. I do think that CAS does a great job, though, with these little kind of brackets that hold the laser cannons in place. It just kind of keeps them, you know, straight and things like that. So, this one was already kind of bending upwards, so that's why it looks like that. It was already like that before I even sent it in. The canopy's kind of slid open a little bit there, but you know, that's fine. I'm not worried about that. But this one did come back with a 75 plus, and I'm just kind of out of room, man. These cases take up a lot of space, so I'm starting to kind of hit my wall, so to speak, and I'm probably going to end up selling that. I got a couple of gifts that I picked up from Dominic R, and he just is way too generous. He sent me a bunch of really incredible gifts, and I can't remember which ones I've shown you and which ones I have not. I may not have shown any of these yet, but in a couple of different packages, he sent me 3 really nice gems. The first being the camo lapel Han Solo trench coat. And the problem is I keep mentioning figure variants that I want to pick up in my videos, and then he goes and buys them. So I'm going to try to stop doing that, because, you know, you guys don't need to be sending me this stuff. And Dominic has sent me so many generous gifts over the last year or so that, you know, it's just way too much, man. So thank you so much. But this is a camo lapel, pink face, Han Solo trench coat 85. There's also obviously a plain lapel, pale face, things like that. But this is the camo lapel. I've got the plain lapel, pale face, no COO 85, AFA 85. And then I've also got a baggy that is an 80 or an 80 plus, something like that. So I've got a few different variants for Han Solo trench coat. This, obviously, I think you probably know what this is, but this is a really beautiful example and way too generous of a gift from Dominic. But this is the Spanish PBP / tri-logo light blue Boba Fett that he picked up in an auction. And I sent this out to my channel supporters as a, you know, auction alert. And then he goes and buys it for me. So this is the painted knee, unpainted dart, no COO, tri-logo Boba Fett. This is a Spanish PBP figure, to my knowledge. But you can see it's got the painted shin guard there. So the painted knee and then the unpainted wrist dart. There's obviously unpainted and painted darts, things like that, different belt colors. But very, very cool. You could almost argue that this is a bi-tone belt, too. This looks like the darker belt for the crotch versus the lighter brown for the legs. So that's a pretty common thing where you have this bi-tone belt. It wasn't mentioned on the label, but that is absolutely the bi-tone belt. So that I'm just now noticing that as I make this video. Maybe it's just my imagination, but it does look like the darker torso piece has like the darker brown versus the lighter brown for the legs. So that's pretty cool too. So this one got the 80 grade. Figure got an 80, paint got an 80. And that, I would agree with that assessment. This looks like about an 80 to me. But a beautiful figure and super, super generous. And then the other item that Dominic sent me, he sent me some other stuff too, but I'm going to save it for another video when I show you some mint on cards I picked up from CAS grade, you know, being done at grading, as well as a couple that I picked up on Facebook. So I'll do that in another video soon. But this is the other item that Dominic sent me. This is the ESB D baggy for the Bespin security guard, graded UKG 80%. Believe it or not, this is a category 4 baggy, a very, very rare baggy. If you go to, I forget the name of the website, but you know, one of the big websites online covers the, you know, has a good baggy guide. And it goes through all the different variations for the Kenner mail-away baggies. And this is one that they rate as a category 4 in terms of rarity. Very tough to find the Bespin guard in a baggy. And I love, obviously, you guys know that I love the UKG cases for baggies. I think it really does a nice job there. So speaking of baggies, these are two baggies that I picked up from Gold Star Tech. I mentioned them in a recent market update, but these are the other two baggies that I picked up recently that Gold Star Tech on eBay had at auction. It was my first time buying from them, and they packed these two baggies like a pro. The first one being the Last 17 Amanaman baggie, graded 85 by AFA. And this is an ESB-C baggie. This would be the baggie that came in the Last 17 version of the Jabba the Hutt dungeon playset, along with EV9D9 and Barada. So that's kind of the Jabba the Hutt dungeon variation with the Last 17 figures. So pretty cool to get my first Amanaman. I've never had one before. He is just a weird, weird character, though, and so big. So I didn't know if I'd ever bother getting one of them, but this one popped up at auction, and the timing was right for my budget. So that was one. And then the other one I had to get, obviously, is Bosk. This is the ESB A baggie, and I have no idea what this one went to. If I had to guess, it was probably the Darth Vader carrying case that came with Vader, Bosk, and I believe it was either Boba Fett or IG-88. So I can't remember, but this particular baggie I've never actually seen before graded. And this one's graded AFA 85. So got that one for a really good deal. I think I paid $260 on that one, which was a bargain. And the Amanaman wasn't that much more. It was like $3 something. So I thought that for already graded AFA 85s for two baggies that fit in really well with my existing collection, could not pass it up. And then the last one I got is another loose graded figure. I picked this one up from Jason W., another Patreon supporter. He had this for sale. I think he upgraded to a 90 grade. So this is an AFA 85 Ugnaught Hong Kong COO. Very common figure, but I just liked it how blue that apron was. The only other one I've got that's not a bootleg, I've got a couple, I think one Mexican bootleg, and then I've got a 41A for the Ugnaught, but this one is a CAS 85 with the purple smock, which most people would say that this is just a discolored blue. But I didn't have one that was like a super bright blue, and then Jason had this one up for sale, and I was like, I'll take it, man. Let's do it. So thank you, Jason, for the Ugnaught. And, that's just gives you a glimpse of some of the recent pickups and some of the recent grading returns that I've had. As I mentioned, I do have a few mint on cards that I've picked up here recently that I'll probably do in another video soon. And also show you one awesome Stan Solo custom that Dominic also sent along with some of these other incredible gifts. So I hope you enjoyed this look at my recent pickups. Thank you as always for watching. Thanks again to Dominic for the incredible gifts, to Dustin B for the very smooth transaction, and to Jason W for the Uggy. Really appreciate everything, guys. Talk to you soon.